Hello and welcome to my channel. If you don't know who I am, my name is Erin and I run the Petite Planner, and this is my April 2019 Plan With Me video. I hope I sound okay. I've been sick for like 3 months, but it's been super bad the past, I don't know, week and a half. So I'm getting a little bit better. I'm on the mend, but I think I still sound a little bit off. So anyways, this is my Plan With Me video, and this is my cover, and it is a lighthouse. So I went with a nautical theme for this month after I posted a poll on Instagram with 2 ideas, one being a lighthouse and nautical theme and the other one being a champagne theme. So then I had everybody comment, and it looks like the nautical theme one. I actually didn't count them all, so please don't come after me if you decide to be brave enough to go and count them all. So I did draw all this up beforehand because there was a lot in it, and honestly I wasn't quite sure how I was going to go about it. But I started with the lighthouse, and I just kind of drew from a picture that I found on Instagram, and I tried to keep it pretty simple rather than adding in a ton of elements because I still really like the doodly theme. If you guys have been on my channel, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I definitely follow a more doodly theme than anything that's hyper realistic. So I wanted to keep that in mind while I was doing this rather than try to draw something exact. And then I added the flowers because I love flowers and I like to draw them, and I felt like it did kind of go with the theme. You will see later that these flowers do tie in other areas, not just on the cover page. And then I did these waves, which were really hard for me. They were just, I don't know, they were kind of awkward to draw, but I enjoyed it, and I think in the future I'd love to do like a pattern or an entire theme surrounding the waves. So for all of this, I'm just using my Faber-Castell Pitt artist pens, and I believe that I used the fine size for the majority of the outlines, and then on a lot of the interior stuff I used the small, and then for the flowers I did use the extra small. So I like to really vary my line width while I'm doing all this, and I don't really have a rhyme or reason to it. I usually keep my big outlines of anything that's bigger a little bit wider, and then the smaller details a little bit finer with the finer point pens. And then if you see all the colors in the cup next to me, I will be using so many different brands and colors to fill all of this in, but I will leave links to everything down below so that you know exactly what I used, because I just kind of pick colors that I like, and I test all my colors in the back of my notebook on the very last page. And so I just will start with like one color that I'm sure of. Like I knew that I wanted to use red, and then I was going to kind of build from there. So I knew that I wanted some blues in there, and I just kind of test them all next to each other and see how they look. And if they look good to me, then that's kind of just what I go with. And so I just put them all in a cup so that hopefully my scene here wouldn't be so messy by the time I was done, because normally when I draw I just fling markers and pens all over the place, and it is a nightmare when I have a lot of colors going on. So I started here with the Staedtler Tri-Plus fine liner in a dark blue shade to just add some extra little details to these waves. So I added some little bubbles around the outside to make it look like the water was splashing, and then I added some lines within for the interior of those waves. And then for the ship wheel, I am picking up 2 different colored brown Tombos. So the first one that I'm using is 977, and then the darker one I'm using is 969. And I did want to go with 2 colors just to kind of offset the different pieces of the steering wheel. It's not a steering wheel, it's a ship wheel. And just kind of add some contrasting browns to it. And I really like the way that this turned out. The second brown is really dark, but it's not quite as dark in real life as it is in the video. And then the light pink that I'm going with on these flowers is a Tombow, and it's number 800. It is super light. It felt like I wasn't even coloring these in most of the time. Like up close it looks a lot better, but from a distance it's not very bright, and so it's a really nice highlight color if you want to add some highlight to your words or something. And then I used a Crayola colored pink for the center of the flowers, and then I'm using a Crayola red. I was going to use a Tombow red that I have that I like. It's a little bit deeper, but my Nuna does tend to bleed through, and you'll see me check the back of this here in a little bit. I get really freaked out that it's going to bleed through and I'm going to have to redo my entire calendar, but I didn't end up having to, and the Crayola didn't bleed through. And I've had great luck with Crayolas not bleeding through despite what the color is, but reds can be kind of tricky and they do bleed through sometimes. So then I went in with 2 different shades of gray on the top of the lighthouse, And the lighter gray is a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen in Cold Gray, number 230. And then for the Tombow, which is the darker colored one, it's N65. And then for the yellows, I used Tombows again. And for the darker yellow, I used 055. And for the lighter yellow, I used 062. Now for the greens, I am using a Tombow and a Ecoline brush pen. And the Ecoline brush pen is going to be number 666, and it is a very pastel green. And then for the darker green, I am using a Tombow number 192. And then in the bottom, I am using a blue mild liner, zebra mild liner, and I don't know as though they really have a name, but it is the set, I think it's the original set, and it's the bluish shade. It almost kind of has a purpley tone to it. And then I also used a Tombow for the top part of the waves because I wanted them to be a little bit lighter and look like they were splashing over, so I left some white as well, and that number is 553. So as you'll see, my Nuna ghosts really bad, and it doesn't matter with what markers I use, but mainly the Zebra Mild Liners combined with the Staedtler Triplus really kind of bled through, and I was a little bit bummed, but I'll work with it as I always do. I don't get too worked up over it, except that one time where it bled through the entire back with watercolor. You can see that video up in the top corner here. And then we're moving on to the calendar. So I did change up the font here. On the front, I did a very minimalist kind of cursive font, but I did want to go with a bolder, more nautical font. So I found this on Pinterest, and it was these kind of faux block letters. And then they have these little pieces shooting out the side of them, and I really liked it. So then I just added some blue horizontal lines on the bottom, and I really thought that it gave it a nice nautical feel. And of course I had to add some doodles here, so I did add a bottle with a note in it, and then I am adding this piece of wood board. So instead of going over it with black, I just used the brown Tombow, the lighter brown Tombow that I mentioned earlier, and then I created some wiggly lines on it to make it look like a board. So because I've been sick lately, I really tried to condense my monthly pages this month because I just didn't really have the energy to make my setup or try to make it super fancy. And I know people are going to be like, well, this is pretty fancy, or this has a lot of doodles, but that's just my nature, and I knew that's what I wanted. And despite being sick, this is relaxing for me, so it was nice to do it, but I still wanted to make it as short as possible, if that makes sense. So this month, I still have my stats page that I did last month, which you can see here, and I decided to just add it onto this page because last month I added a notes section next to my calendar, and I think I have one item on the list, so it was kind of a waste of space anyways. So I did decide to just add my stats page and all my statistics right here on the side of the page, and I think it'll work out. And then I also added this little growth tracker on the side for Instagram and YouTube because that's part of the business, and it's always fun to actually see how much you grow in a month, because you might look at it in a day and think, oh wow, that's not that much, but if you look at it over the course of a month, you'll be pretty surprised with what you come away with. So here I am doing an anchor because I love anchors, and I didn't draw one on the cover, but the anchors tie in on the next page, which is my habit tracker, along with the little flower. So I added these here, and I did add some extra lines on the anchor to kind of darken it up and just give it a really fun doodly feel. So as we move over to my growth tracker and to my stats, I'll tell you just a little bit about how I'm going to do my growth tracker, and I don't know if everybody else does theirs this way or how most people do it. This is just what seemed to work for me. I decided I will just check my numbers every Monday, and I will start by writing the number, and then I will maybe I will calculate out the difference between the previous week and the current week to actually write in the actual numbers of followers I gained on each platform. So down below, this is my stats page, which I did the exact same thing in March, except that in March it was flipped horizontally, and it was on its own page with my goals and my action plan. So this month I kind of forewent the action plan, although I do love having it because it keeps me on track and knowing exactly what I need to do. I just decided to write in my goals this month at the bottom of the April calendar where I had some space, because again, I'm trying to condense space. And I do like to have my goals either next to my stats or next to my habit tracker because they all tie together. So here are my stats, and I keep track of my weight, my calories, and my daily mood. And I know that some people will say it's not healthy to track your weight every day, and I don't. I have a lot of days that just have lines in them. I just like to have that space available and where all of them are together so I can kind of look, and then I can see a correlation between things like how many calories I ate that day and what my mood was, or how much sleep I got and what my mood was. And those things definitely help me adjust my daily routine to make me a better person, whether it be in work or at my house or as a wife. So we are moving on to my habit tracker. You guys, for the very first time, I think in any of my Plan With Me videos, I am using stickers this month. I absolutely loved my habit tracker last month, but it took so long to set up that I was just like, I'm not sure that I want to draw 30 anchors. I'm not even sure I could draw 30 anchors because anchors are kind of tough. So I used my iPad Pro and Procreate, and I drew one version of this, and then I copied it over 31 times, 30 for the whole month, and then the one extra is for the key at the top. And then I printed it out, and then I cut it using my Cricut. If you guys are interested in how to make your own stickers with the Apple iPad Pro and Procreate and the Cricut, let me know, and I would be happy to put up a tutorial on how to do it. I think it's really cool, and I actually may continue to use stickers in the future. Maybe not everywhere. I love to draw, but as a way to speed things up, I really like this process, and I think it turned out really, really nice. So here, if you didn't get to see last month's habit tracker, the idea here comes from a girl named Bujo with Becky on Instagram, and each little piece of this doodle represents a different habit, so I'll color it in if I completed that habit for the month. So I have a total of 9 spaces, and these are pretty small, so we will see how it works. I felt like with March, at first I struggled and I was looking up at my key a lot, but at this point I'm just kind of going through it like I know which space means what without having to look, and so I can fill it in pretty quick. This one is a little smaller and more detailed, so it might be a little bit harder, but I think I can do it. And I kept a lot of my habits the same for the most part, but I added some things that I've been adding to my weeklies. So I've been working really hard at my middle splits, and I finally got my pike press handstand through yoga, so it's something that I try to keep up with every single day so that I don't lose it. So I have 2 spaces for those, and then I am finally getting to a point in my life where I realize how important it is to floss my teeth, so I also have one for flossing my teeth every day. So moving over here, for the past 2 months now, I have done an entire budget where I lay out all my bills, and in March that didn't work. I gave up on it really quick, and it was just too much. But I love the idea of tracking my spending. I've been keeping all of my receipts, and in my mind, I have been actually tracking my spending. So I wanted to have a place where I could write it down without this huge burden of thinking I have to write everything down and calculate everything every single day, because it was overwhelming, and for me, if something becomes overwhelming, I'm not gonna do it. So I simplified it. So instead of writing all my bills down, I just decided to just make a spending log, and then in the future I would like to just create like a 6-month bill tracker that I wouldn't have to create month after month, and that would be a lot easier, and it would make it a lot easier on myself. As for our budgeting, we are still budgeting. I'm just not going to be doing it in my bullet journal. As much as I love it, it's just not feasible for me to be able to sit down with it and just work on that one part of it for 15 minutes a day calculating different things. So again, this is just a spending log for the month, and because it's a Nuna, it's got pretty little lines, so I think I'll be able to just keep it there. That's what my hope is that we aren't spending that much money, that I'll have enough lines. So what I track on this is the date, and then the place, and a general idea of what the purchase was, as well as the amount, and then the category. So for me, category is going to be something like grocery, clothing, household necessities, entertainment, things like that. So I know exactly where we're spending our money, and at the end of the month I can look and see where we're spending the most money or where we can cut back. The last page in my monthly setup is my gratitude log. I actually almost forgot to put this in here, so it was kind of last minute, and I was like, well, I'll just do something pretty easy. And so I just created a title, and in the past what I've done with this style of log is I just, every day I take a different lettering style or something, or add a doodle, and then I make that for whatever day it is in no specific order. There are no boxes. It's just kind of a collage of gratitude for the entire month without any rhyme or reason. So you guys, that wraps up my April setup. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Also be sure to check out my series 30 Days of Doodles, which you'll find below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.